Chapter 7. Changes in Art, Painting, Literature and Architecture. Human beings have always had the urge to express and share whatever they feel through language, music and art. But whatever the medium or message, all forms of artistic expression are ultimately products of the cultural stream from which they spring. They cannot simply emerge from a vacuum, they have to flow from the occupations and preoccupations of men. The kaleidoscopic art scene on the Indian subcontinent is a reflection of the enormous impact of a series of new influences. Indian art and culture has absorbed outside impacts by varying degrees and has become richer for the exposure. This cross-fertilization between different art streams converging on the subcontinent produced new forms that, while retaining the essence of the past, succeeded in integrating selected elements of the new influences. In other words, through the study of the history of art we can know about our past. This not only helps us to reconstruct history more accurately, but also tells us how and why various developments took place from time to time within the socio-political framework of our society. Research into India's past. The revival of interest in the culture of ancient India arose through the work of Sir William Jones, who held a high post under the company. He founded the Asiatic Society of Bengal in 1784 with an aim to research India's past. Due to these efforts, the people of India began to overcome the demoralizing effects of colonial hegemony. They began to realize that their ancestors had great achievements to their credit. The efforts of William Jones, Max Mueller and Monier Williams revealed to the world the treasure of Indian literature and culture. William Jones translated Kalidas, Abhigyan Sakuntalam and James Prinsep deciphered the Brahmi script in 1834. Thus, they reconstructed the history of Ashoka and ancient India. In fact, Indians had forgotten the Brahmi script, written records of which were not available. Because of their efforts, Indians felt proud of themselves and their ancestors, while Europeans also recognized the rich cultural heritage of India. But with the political domination by the British in the 19th century, there was complete change in the intellectual and socio-economic pattern of life in India. Thus, under the cultural impact of the British, the native India tradition was slowly inching towards the great Renaissance tradition of the West. Painting. A rich Indian tradition of art and culture was already established well before the beginning of the 20th century. In Indian paintings can be broadly divided into two categories, murals and miniature paintings. The first and the most creative period of the art of painting extends from the 1st to the 7th centuries. Of this, the richest heritage is that of the murals of Ajanta. In northern India, the frescoes at Bagh caves are the best survivals. Gradually, the art of wall paintings decreased and the miniature paintings developed under the Mughals. A number of provincial branches of paintings developed in different parts of the country during the Mughal period, like Pahadi, Pat, Kota, Bundi, etc. These traditions gradually declined owing to the changing socio-economic condition, which led to the migration of artists from one place to another in search of livelihood, which, in turn, led to the change of popular taste under the westernized impact of British colonialism. In the late 19th century, the taste of the art-loving public gradually shifted from the royal courts of the hill states to the folk paintings of the bazaar. Gradually, under the cultural impact of the British, the native Indian tradition was slowly discarded due to the intellectual and technological superiority of the West. Murals are huge works executed on the walls of solid structures, as in the Ajanta and Kailashnath temples. Miniature paintings are carried out on any perishable materials such as paper, canvas, hardboard, etc. Emergence of art schools. Increasing contact with Western cultures changed the tastes of affluent Indians. It attracted a large number of European professional artists to seek their fortunes in Indian courts and principalities in the early 19th century. This continued till the middle of the 19th century, when the British government established art schools in certain Indian cities. This saw the emergence of an Indo-European genus of painting known as company style. These provincial schools of art patronized the new techniques in painting such as Western academic style, nationalist art, etc. Art education in the Western style began in India with the establishment of the Mechanical Institute of Art in Calcutta in 1839. However, regular art education began when the School of Indian Art was established in Calcutta in 1954. In 1875, the Mayo School of Arts was opened in Lahore. It was around this time that some Indian artists trained in the Western style pioneered a new movement of art in India. Prominent among them were Ananda Prasad Bagchi and Shyamacharan Srimani. Many new artists went to European countries to refine their art and artistic vision. Evolution of the Western academic style. In the post-Renaissance period in Europe, art was dominated by classical artists. Artistic themes revolved around nature and religion. But advancement in the fields of science and technology added new dimensions. The classical influence continued throughout the first half of the 19th century, but alongside it grew the powerful movement of Romanticism. Romanticism asserted the power of feeling and the individual imagination. However, the French Revolution and Napoleonic Wars helped to bridge the gap between Neoclassicism and Romanticism. The vibrant arts movement in Europe influenced the artistic expression of Indians to a large extent. Many Indian artists excelled in Western art. In the first half of the 20th century, many Indian artists visited Europe. Prominent among them were Devi Prasad Roy Chaudhary, Jamini Prasad Ganguly and Prahlad Karmakar. Like Raja Ravi Verma, several artists chose a painting style developed in the West. They used a naturalistic approach to the human form and landscape. Ala Buksh, 1895 to 1978, painted indigenous subjects in this mode. Even though he adapted an academic style, he never attended art school. Faizi Rahmin, 1886 to 1964, later in life, look on a traditional Indian miniature style, yet his earlier work is marked by the European academic approach to painting. Thus, 20th century Indian art swung between two extremes, as one can witness in the work of Abanindranath Tagore and Raja Ravi Verma. Artistic nationalism. In 20th century, a spirit of nationalism was arising in India because of works of social reformers. In the field of art, artistic nationalism focused on the common man and the themes related to the common man, life of the working class, poverty and manual labor. The Calcutta group in the early 20th century was mainly associated with nationalism, but was also supported and promoted by many British art administrators. However, by the end of the 19th century, the colonial setting in India formed the backdrop of nationalist movement in Indian art. The movement led by Abanindranath Tagore and supported by E.B. Havell head the Calcutta School of Art in the opening decade of the 20th century. Havell tried to propagate true appreciation of India's cultural heritage abroad and advised young Indians against blind admiration of Western art. Nationalist art culminated in the works of three Tagores, Gagendranath Tagore, Abanindranath Tagore and Rabindranath Tagore. The Vishwa Bharati University set up at Shantiniketan by Rabindranath Tagore was one of the key centers of the Bengal School of Art. Meanwhile, Abanindranath Tagore produced a masterpiece of nationalism in the form of Bharat Mata, Mother India, painting. In this picture, he depicted her as a Hindu goddess, with four arms holding objects symbolic of national aspirations. Photography. The art of photography became popular from the mid-19th century onwards. Now, a camera was available to do the job perfectly. Soon this new version of artistic creation reached India. Many Indians took keen interest in photography, such as Maharaja Birchandra Manekya of Tripura, Maharaja Savai Ram Singh II of Jaipur and Lala Deen Dayal. Their photographs were mainly depicted courts, women, notable Britishers and British and Indian patrons. Lala Deen Dayal was appointed as court photographer of Viceroy Curzon in 1884. Through photography, he portrayed notable events of the courts and the architecture of new palaces. Performing art, music and dance. The oral tradition of passing on knowledge from one generation to next, Guru Shishya, is very much alive even today. Music and dance. Other aspects of culture also witnessed the same signs of growth and synthesis as visible in architecture, painting and literature. The music and dance of India developed a very rich variety on the foundations laid in ancient times. The earliest tradition of Indian music can be traced back to the Vedas, which prescribed the pitch and accent for the chanting of ancient hymns. The earliest known treatise of Indian music, dance and drama, Bharat's Natya Shastra, is as old as 2nd century BC. The musical terminology that we use today is mostly derived from this treatise. Indian music, both vocal and instrumental, developed with 7 basic notes and 5 others. Different string, wind and drum instruments were invented later. India's music is based on the combination of vocal and instrumental music along with dance. And a combination of these 3 is called Sangeet, which makes a performance complete. Before 13th century, Indian music was fundamentally a single type of musical form. But with the invasion of the Mughals, the music of North and Central India, Hindustani music, blended with the Mughal musical influences of Arabia and Persia, whereas the Carnatic music of the South remained free of external influence. Indian music has continued to evolve and develop through the centuries. The Turkish invasion brought Sufi influence on Indian music. Akbar's reign witnessed the emergence of Darbar Sangeet. Tansen, born Ramtanu Pandey, was a legendary vocalist, instrumentalist and composer of Akbar's time, who influenced the Hindustani classical music in major way. The beginning of the 19th century saw the inception of musical forms like Khayal and Thumri. The early 20th century witnessed the first music college named Gandharv Mahavidyalaya in 1901, established by V.D. Paluskar. V.N. Bhatkhande pioneered the introduction of an organized musical system reflecting current performing practices. A number of musical schools, gharnas, developed in North India, Hindustan. The Patiala Gharana of Punjab has been one of the most influential schools. There was Ali Bucks in the early 20th century, followed by his son Bed Ghulam Ali Khan. They handed over the mantle to Rashid Khan in the 1990s. While Abdul Karim Khan created the Kirana Gharno in the early 20th century, Alladia Khan matched his feat with his Atrauli Jaipur Gharana. India has had a long tradition of dancers and dance styles since the ancient period. The story of Indian dance is there for all to see in the temple structures of ancient and medieval times. The image of Shiva as Nataraj, the king of dancers, illustrates the influences of dance on the life of Indians. Classical dance is bound by rigid rules and strict discipline. There are a number of classical dance forms in India. Each dance form represents the ethos of a particular region or a population group. Some of the popular classical styles are Bharatanatyam, Tamil Nadu, Kathakali and Mohiniyattam, Kerala, Odissi, Odisha, Kathak, Uttar Pradesh, Kuchipudi, Andhra Pradesh and Manipuri, Manipur. The themes of Indian dance are derived from Indian mythology, legends, and classical literature. Indian cinema. Theatre in India is as old as music and dance. However, while classical theatre is limited to a few places, every region has its own form of folk theatre. Technically, cinema is nothing but theatre transformed by technology. This history of Indian cinema goes back to the last decade of the 19th century. In 1896, cinema came to India with the screening of a silent short film of Lumiere Brothers at the Watson Hotel, Bombay. Later, Hiralal Sen began filming scenes of theatre productions at the Classical Theatre in Calcutta, Kolkata, with Indian cinema firmly on the road to commercial production. The first feature film, Pundalik, by N.G. Chitre and R.G. Tony was a great success. Raja Harishchandra, the first full-length Indian feature film, was produced by Dada Saheb Phalke in 1912. In 1931, Alam Ara made cinematic history, being the first Indian film with a soundtrack. The year 1918 witnessed the screening of the first regional feature film, made in Bengal and in South Indian language. Do you know? Dada Saheb Phalke is known as the grand old man of Indian cinema. Literature. The 19th and 20th centuries saw the maturing of Indian literature. Earlier, it was confined to religion and mythology. Most of it was not related to the present. Now literature adopted secular and national themes. The individual became important and his day-to-day problems and struggles became the central theme of the literary works of this period. New forms of writing such as novels, short stories, dramas and essays became popular. Since patriotism, nationalism and social reforms were the prevailing social preoccupations, these reflected in the literature. Raja Rammohan Roy, Ishwar Chandra Vidyasagar, G.H. Deshmukh, Sri Narayana Guru were powerful writers who wrote influential books and edited journals in their respective languages. Though Bhartendu Harishchandra pioneered modern Hindi literature, it is Munshi Premchand who is credited with introducing realism in Hindi prose by focusing on the social issues of the day. His works had a far-reaching effect on the popular imagination. With the impact of European languages and culture after the mid-19th century, Indian writers were influenced by the classical themes of Western thought like humanism, freedom, individualism, etc. However, nationalism was the main driving force for the 20th century Indian writers. They played an important role in arousing national consciousness. Bankim Chandra Chatterjee and Rabindranath Tagore in Bengali, Lakshmi Bejbarua and Hemchandra in Assamese, Vishnu Shastri Chiplankar and Hari Narayan Apte in Marathi, Subramanyam Bharti in Tamil, Kumaran Asan and Vallathol K. Venkatappa Govda Putpa in Kannada, Altab Hussain Ali and Muhammad Iqbal in Urdu and Premchand in Hindi were prominent. Premchand's inspiring prose supported the cause of Hindu-Muslim unity. Poetry also flourished during this period. Rabindranath Tagore composed the national anthem, Jana Gana Mana. Rabindranath Tagore got the Nobel Prize for Literature in 1913. The national song, Vande Mataram, was composed by Bankim Chandra Chatterjee, while Sare Jahan Se Acha by Muhammad Iqbal continues to stir our heartstrings. Do you know? Some of the languages spoken in ancient India which had rich literary tradition have become extinct, for example, Pali. Growth of the Indian press. Print media played a crucial role in reflecting the social, political and economic conditions of a nation. The Europeans brought printing technology to India. As early as 1557, Portuguese Jesuits set up a press in Goa and began to print religious literature. In course of time, printing technology spread throughout India. Newspapers owned by the British were supporters of the British rule. In the 19th century, presses owned by Indians began publishing newspapers, journals and magazines in both vernacular languages as well as English. Most of the reformers were involved in editing and publishing newspapers and journals. They gave voice to the grievances of the Indians and their social, economic and political demands. In the latter part of the 19th century, the growing number of newspapers helped to mobilize public opinion in favor of seeking freedom from British rule. Modern Indian architecture. Like all other aspects, the colonization also had impact on Indian architecture. Colonization ushered in a new chapter in Indian architecture. The English left a lasting impression on Indian architecture. Now, whereas elegant or grand as those of the Mughals, the buildings constructed by the British were generally utilitarian in concept, being basically civic, defensive or commemorative structures. The first building constructed by the British were factories, but later on, district administration offices, courts of justice, schools, municipal halls and dak bungalows came up. These were ordinary structures built by garrison engineers with a view to solidity, defendability, and heat insulation. They were readily expandable, with large courtyards, gardens, etc., tended to by an army of gardeners, caretakers, and cleansers. A thing to notice is that in the beginning the architectural designs were clearly aimed at creating and consolidating authority. Later examples of colonial architecture culminated in a new form that some refers to as Indo-European architecture. This style owed its origin to geographical and climatic conditions prevalent in India. The British were not used to the extreme heat and humidity, so the entire effort was directed at offsetting the acute discomfort they suffered. This party explains their insistence on high ceilings, thick stone walls, gardens, fountains, etc. The English style, mainly seen in their residential buildings and army barracks, enlarged the concept of large spacious bungalows for residential purposes, with wide windows and ventilators, surrounded with lawns, gardens, fountains and trees to keep the surroundings cool. The colonial architecture was the blend of Hindu, Islamic and Western elements. Some colonial architectures survive in innumerable institutional, civic and utilitarian buildings such as post offices, railway stations, rest houses and government buildings. Such buildings began to be built in large numbers in different parts of British India. From the mid-19th century onwards, the Anglo-Indian builders started following the Gothic model in the construction of churches, complete with flying buttresses and tall, stained glass windows. Style heavier than Gothic were frequently employed. Some examples of these are the Mutini Memorial Church at Kanpur and the last Garrison Church in New Delhi. The classical and Baroque style took the innovation in architecture even further. Walter Carnwell's Calcutta General Post Office is its best example. When it ran out of ideas or stopped responding to imperatives, it lapsed into aggressive imitation. One can see INTH Victoria Memorial, where William Emerson bravely but foolishly tried to imitate the Taj Mahal, in material if not in form. Case study: Mumbai. Mumbai originally consisted of 7 islands on the west coast of India that were part of the Mauryan Empire under Ashoka. After his death, these islands passed into the hands of various Hindu rulers until 1343, when the Muslim ruler of Gujarat took it over. The only mark of that period is the mosque at Mahim. In 1534, the Portuguese, who already controlled many important trading centers on the western coast, such as Panji, Daman, Diu, took Bombay by force of arms from the ruler of Gujarat. This led to the establishment of numerous churches. After 128 years, the islands were given to the English King Charles II in dowry on his marriage to Portuguese Princess Catherine of Braganza in 1662. In 1668, the islands were acquired by the English East India Company on lease from the Crown. The shifting of the East India Company's headquarters to Bombay in 1687 led to the development of the city. The docks of Bombay speak volumes of the city's industrial development. The first railway line in India was laid from Bombay to Thane in 1849. Bombay was one of the first cities in India to have newspapers. There soon developed a mixed culture of Parsis, Christians, Muslims, etc. In painting and literature of this city, the impact of these various communities has been very prominent. World-famous painters Tayyab Mehta and M.F. Hussain belong to member. In performing arts, this city has no comparison. Prithvi Theatre was established by veteran actor Prithvi Raj Kapoor. Its first play was Kalidasa's classic Shakuntala. Bollywood is the famous Hindi film industry in Mumbai. The architecture of Mumbai reflects a deep impact of colonial architecture. Sir Gilbert Scott's buildings, such as Bombay University, were significant products. Other remarkable landmarks produced during this phase were William Emerson's Crawford Market, the Bombay High Court and the Victoria Terminus, now Shivaji Terminus. New architecture in Mumbai. Afghan Church, also known as the Church of St. John the Evangelist, it was built by the Britishers to commemorate victory in the First Afghan War of 1838. Gateway of India. The most popular monument of Bombay was constructed to commemorate the visit of British King George V in 1911. It was opened in 1924 by the Viceroy, the Earl of Reading. The monument has great historical significance because the last British troops that sailed for England left through this gateway. Victoria Terminus, Chhatrapati Shivaji Terminus. The monument is the best specimen of colonial architecture in India. It was built in 1888. It looks more like a cathedral than a railway station. It is a UNESCO World Heritage Site. Case study: Chennai. The Vijayanagar Empire ruled the extreme south for over 2 centuries from 1350 to 1565. The 16th century witnessed the arrival of the Portuguese, followed by the Dutch trading companies. By 1612, the Dutch established themselves in Pulicat to the north. Modern Chennai grew out of a small village when in 1639 a fishing hamlet called Madraspatnam was selected by the early English merchants of the East India Company as a site for the settlement. It was founded in 1639 on land given by the Raja of Chandragiri, the last representative of the Vijayanagar rulers of Hampi. They built a small fort at a fishing settlement in 1644 and a town, which subsequently came to be known as Georgetown, came up in the areas of Fort Street. George. In the latter half of the 18th century, Madras became a famous colonial center. The British constructed ports initially for trading purposes and later converted it into a naval base. The city's glorious past is reflected in its literature and in the field of performing arts. Its literature is traceable to the three Sangams, academics of learned men. The Tirukkural is the most ancient Tamil classic and is considered to be a masterpiece. Chennai is known for the classical Indian dance from Bharatanatyam. Dance and music have long been an inseparable part of the culture of the city. It is for Carnatic music. Colonial architecture in Chennai. The Madras High Court established in 1862. The Madras High Court building, which is an example of the Indo-Saracenic style, was completed in 1892 under the guidance of architect Henry Irwin. Its decorative domes and corridors are exquisite examples of a new architectural style. It is said to be the second largest judicial building in the world, first being the Courts of London. Continuous review. Let's revise. Sir William Jones founded the Asiatic Society of Bengal in 1784 with an aim to research into the glorious past of India. Indian paintings can be divided into two categories, murals and miniatures. Murals covered the period from 1st to 7th centuries, whereas Mughal period reflects the development of miniature paintings. 20th century witnessed a new awakening in the form of art and literature. Both the fields focused primarily on the issues related to common man and nationalism. Indian music and dance forms have evolved and developed through the ages. Mughal influence has further enriched them. Cinema was introduced in India in 1896. Raja Harishchandra was the first full-length Indian feature film, followed by Alam Ara in 1931, the first Indian film with sound. Bhartendu Harishchandra and Munshi Premchand were the pioneers of Hindi literature. Their writings had a long-lasting impact on the minds of people. The colonial rule is credited with having developed Indo-European architecture that combined Hindu, Islamic and Western elements. Like, share, and subscribe.